Well, the interesting history, I think, behind Columbia Transit, or as it started out as Columbia Municipal Bus Lines, was that it was a privately held entity. And so there were 3 or 4 buses, and the gentleman that ran the bus system was with the last name of Watson. And in about the mid-1960s, around 1964-65, Mr. Watson wanted to sell the business and he wanted to retire. He approached the city initially and said, you know, it's been a pretty successful venture. Would this be something that you want to take over? And there was a lot of resistance to that at first. So it kind of came down to a mail and phone campaign. And the council and the manager heard from the residents that said, we use this and depend upon this system. And so in September of 1965, several buses were purchased and leased. And on September 9th of 1965, Columbia Transit, if you will, was born. And it has gone from that point forward and stayed, unfortunately, kind of stagnant.
Historically, the City of Columbia, both elected officials as well as our staff, with our Columbia Transit or also Public Works Department, have recognized a need for a more interconnected public transportation system. It both lessens our demand on our public infrastructure, so our streets and sidewalks, and also makes it easier for people to get to our larger employment centers, as well as grocery stores, the doctor's office, friends, family. Just makes it easier and everybody is more successful in the end.
The city has really kind of outgrown the bus system as it is designed today. Over the years, we've listened to the complaints that we've heard about our wait times being too long, or buses driving around empty, or in certain routes too full, and we felt it was time to take a look at the entire system and see what we could do to improve on all of those different areas where we've seen complaints over the years.
Well, it all began with City Manager Mike Mathis. He challenged the staff to come up with something innovative. And so at that point, I sat down with all the transit staff and we started drawing with magic markers on a system. One of the ideas, we have to take the Wabash out of the system. We don't just want one transfer point. We kind of drew a cross, which is down Providence and down Broadway, and then we took circles and connected the ends of the cross. And so that's kind of how the idea started. The transit staff took it from there and developed what was presented to council a few weeks ago.
Como Connect is really kind of a strategic plan. The design is to get the public involved, to get all of the various community stakeholders involved in the process, and help us to really design a system for the future of Columbia. The plan is a complete revision of all of the routes, starting by removing the Wabash Station as the primary hub. And so what we've designed are 2 major connector routes that have an east-west route and a north-south route. These routes would have about an hour-long route, but with 4 buses in peak service. So a bus would pass you about every 15 minutes on those routes. Connecting into those routes would be 7 neighborhood routes that would circulate into certain neighborhoods and then come back out and connect into those connector routes. We anticipate that the neighborhood routes would see a bus passing you about every 30 minutes in peak service.
The best way to tell the story about the bus system we're trying to build is to tell that story through a series of maps that show the system, what the system is, and show how it relates to all these other parts of life in Columbia.
So things that we took into consideration when putting forth the draft design, we looked back at the health impact assessments and how we designed the routes to cover healthcare facilities. We looked at shopping and employment and all of those different major destinations that people would want to get to and from. We also took into consideration income layers and demographics, high school boundaries, and really interfaced with the GIS department to kind of layer in maps and look at how we were impacting different segments of the population with this design.
At the same time that our transit system started talking about Como Connect, or basically revamping the entire mass transit system, the Federal Department of Transportation announced the Tiger Grant funding opportunity. And we're applying for a little bit over $10 million from the Department of Transportation to help take Como Connect to the next level. Como Connect is currently playing with our current budget, but we're looking for what can we do to also improve it and get things started faster. The City of Columbia is eligible for new buses. So if we have a compressed natural gas system that could be funded from this grant, and the new buses will run on CNG. And those CNG buses, the maintenance and operation costs are less, which is helpful for the City of Columbia. And also their greenhouse gas emissions are less, which is also helpful to to our goals for greenhouse gas emissions reduction.
Well, parking fees are likely to go up this year. As a matter of fact, we're sure that they're going to by a rate of $10. This year we wanted to add a little something different, and so what we're looking at is a $10 increase, and that $10 will then go directly into the transit budget to help with expenses through transit. But what people will get in exchange for that $10 increase is an unlimited bus pass. So they will be able to ride Columbia Transit whenever and wherever they want to.
When I'm trying to connect people with Como Connect to do multimodal transportation, so not just taking the bus, but maybe also riding your bike from home to the bus stop to then take the bus into work, we're looking at integrating that with the Tiger Grant. So we'll have innovative bus shelters that have LED lighting that uses less energy, is solar powered, and also has bike storage at it, so that some of our outlying bus shelters could be kind of like commuter stations. And I really like this approach that the public transportation has taken with this. It's integrating different plans and wants from the different departments as well as community groups into a more sustainable multimodal transportation system for Columbia.
Well, the public is really the backbone of this system, and we need their input. We're almost going to beg for their input, and that is going to occur in various forms. We'll look at public meetings in areas throughout the neighborhood, throughout the core route areas. We'll do some mailings. We'll do some electronic surveys. Regardless of how we reach out to our customers, we hope that they will take that opportunity to tell us what they think and to be open and honest about it, so that we can help mold the system into something that not only can the community be proud of, but a system that is functional, that works, and that is fiscally responsible.
Our goal is to have this implemented partially by August of 2014. That's just pretty fast for a federally funded transit agency. 1 year is not that long. It takes a lot of public input, and so that's a pretty fast goal as far as the federal process takes.
We really like the public transportations involving the community at thinking of alternative ways to get around town. So rather than just this is a bus because you need to ride the bus, I like their approach to making it a place where people want to take the bus. Because I know that if more people get on the bus, that's less cars on the street. And every time I take a car off the street, that's reducing the greenhouse gas emissions in my community and also helping our infrastructure last longer.
Right now we're running about 2 million ridership on the system. 1 million of that is the university shuttle alone, and the university pays for that. So, ridership may not be the gauge, but if we get better coverage in all of the city, people ride it more as a neighborhood than it does just to travel across the city, I think we've done our job. And so it's not basically about the ridership, it's about better usage and better service to the community.